and or lost our first $1 million in real estate. And we are recording this call um, for this very specific reason. I want, I mean, because I know for sure the content that's going to be shared on here are going to be absolutely mind-blowing and super valuable. The wisdom that you're going to learn from this call, I can already tell that, I mean, we can turn into a book from the stories that's going to be shared on this call. And so I wanted to make sure that we record it, and I want to make sure that we make it available for you guys to be able to, listen to it again in the recording. However, there is a small catch, and here's the small catch. You have to ping your friends, take a screenshot of that, DM it to me, my bio, scroll to Instagram to, and I'll send you as okay. So, however, it is participate you right now, and I'm gonna ask all of the do this do
Tim,
everyone.
Tim, you're breaking up for me. I'm not sure if that's happening for everyone else.
Yeah, Tim, you have a little bit of a bad connection right at the moment.
Okay. How about?
But guys, Tim is basically asking everybody to ping as many people in as possible using that little plus sign down below, and then take a screenshot of that, and take a screenshot of that and DM him. And I think he's got a special giveaway. I don't want to say what it was because I don't want to
Yeah.
speak for, but I'm sure it was there. You.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Cool. Sorry about that. So yeah. So we are recording this call, and I'm gonna the giveaway for you to ping your friends in here is that you'll get a recording of this call, because this call is gonna be so valuable. I'm expecting that I'll be able to we'll be able to take this content and turn it into a book. So I do expect some really awesome wisdom that's going to be shared on this call. So yeah, so just ping the ones that has the green dot on the bottom right corner of their picture. That means that they are online right now. So go ahead and ping them and send me the screenshot. And I'm bringing up some speakers here. All right, guys, do me a favor. Only raise your hands if you fit the criteria that you have made and or lost your first million in real estate. Okay, so if that's you, raise your hand and I'll bring you up as a speaker. If that's not you, please do not raise your hand right now. We'll we'll see how much time we'll have, and we might do a Q&A later on. But I really want to go through and have this be a more structured format where we're going to go through and have each of the speakers share their story. And I'll be asking them some questions as well to try to extract the really good juicy stuff for us tonight. All right, so Leo, you have your hand raised. I'm going to assume that you have made or lost $1 million in real estate, so I'm going to bring you up. Okay. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. So we are, so again, welcome everybody. Guys, instead of you each go through speakers, instead of you each go through and introduce yourself, you're gonna have a chance to introduce yourself as we get to you, to share your story. Okay. So I'll go first. My story is I got started in real estate and investing in 2002. I got laid off prior to that from my IT job, back when the dot-com busted. And the IT company I was working for went belly up, and basically, pretty much overnight, they told us that we were all fired. And so that's how I got started in real estate investing. I was in Barnes and Noble one day, and I saw a book on lease option by Peter Conti. He's back then I didn't know him, but now he's been a good friend, and I share him this story. But I was reading through that book, and on chapter 3 it says, if you want to do a deal in the next 30 days, go put out 100 signs. I was like, that's simple enough. You know what? I'm gonna go above and beyond. I'm gonna put out 200 signs. I closed the book. I didn't buy the book at that time. I closed the book, went out, and got 200 signs made. I would have my wife drive the car, and I would like go put out the signs, 200 signs, and we put out the sign. It was on Thursday, and then that weekend I went off. I went out of town for a real estate seminar. It was a Robert Allen seminar, and it's Monday morning, like 7 a.m. The seller called, and I was still asleep, so I called back. Anyways, we play phone tag. Finally got a hold of her. She told me about the house. It had mold, had mold damage. She did a mold claim. At that time, mold claims was very popular here in Texas. So she wanted $60,000 for this property. That retail value was 130,000. Right, obviously need repairs. And from that seminar, I learned to putting it that area by this time because of all the door knocking that I did. I already know it was a good deal. So anyways, long story short, got that deal for 55,000. My sister became my very first private lender on that deal. I had learned about wholesaling. However, I was like, man, I can rehab this deal and make so much more money than I would wholesaling it. So my very first deal, I rehabbed it. Like I said, my sister was my very first private lender, and guess how much I pay her for her interest rate, Tom?
Oh man, not a lot. 1%, 2%.
So check this out. This is my negotiation skills. She had her money sitting in a CD earning like 1%. I said, look, you have in a CD earning 1%. I'll give you 3 times that much. I'll give you 3%.
Oh man, I love it. I love it.
So I always tell people, it's like your immediate friends and family is like your best private lender source that you're untapped, right? That you don't realize. So anyways, so from that deal, I ended up buying the property to the left side of the house, also for 55,000. And then the neighbor to the right side of the house was a real estate agent who then referred me to one of her listings in another neighborhood that I also bought for 55,000. So my first 3 deals, 55,000 was the magic negotiation number. And I rehabbed all 3 of those deals. I didn't wholesale because I like the profit that was coming from rehab was just so much more attractive. So my very first deal, I netted over $55,000 on that first deal. Obviously I got hooked with that, and so fast forward a little bit, I started doing a lot of rehabs, and I was also doing wholesaling as well. I was one of the like biggest volume in terms of volume investor here in Houston at that time. I was running TV commercials and stuff like that, right alongside with home investors back then. And when the 2008 market came, so prior to that, I thought that everything I touched turned into gold. I mean, it like I can go over time, over budget. And like you mentioned earlier, Tom, the market was so forgiving because by the time that I'm done with the property, the value has increased, and I still make a profit on the deal.
Right.
So I thought I was like badass, right? And 2008 market came, I had 30 something, like around 30 properties in different stages of construction. And overnight, like there was no more buyers left. Not only there was no more retail buyers, but the flippers that I was also wholesaling to also went away because hard money lenders at that time, they were willing to loan up to 75% of ARV, and overnight they drop it to 55%. So the flippers were gone. So the only ones that were left buying at that time were the cash landlord buyers, and they were like, yeah, they wanted dirt cheap because there's a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. Anyways, yeah, I mean, I did well in that in that that uptrend, right? That sellers market. So I had plenty of money put aside. However, what I didn't do, because I didn't know how to navigate through that down market at all. And so I held on to these properties for as long as I could. I rented some, whichever one I can rent it out. And however, a lot of my properties, they were not ideal rentals because they were meant for flipping, which is another lesson I've learned. I was sharing a little bit about not buying properties that can be both a rental or a flip, so that way, if like what happened to me is like some of these properties were just not they weren't meant for rental properties. Anyways,
hey Tim, can I I just want to give everybody a resource because you said something about. Could you mind if I give everyone a resource for 2 seconds?
Yeah, of course.
So I just wanted to say, guys, Tim said something. He said he's saying so much stuff that, like, as advanced real estate investors we take for granted, but just for anybody new, the best question he asked with that homeowner was, is that the best you can do on price? And then you're quiet after you ask that question. But the second thing was, he said that he went to his sister who had money in a CD and he doubled or tripled the rate that she was getting. And that's how you get money cheap. There's a great book. It is called Getting the Money by Susan Lassiter Lyons. And every single person in the audience, if you want to learn how to raise a mountain of cash literally like in a week by doing that tactic, Susan Lassiter Lyons talks about it in a very, very small book. She gives you detailed instruction on exactly how to do it, and it's called Getting the Money. It's an amazing resource, so you guys may want to check it out.
That's awesome, Tom. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So yeah, I try to hang on to these properties for as long as I could. 2 years later, I was like using up all the cash reserve that I have to hold on to these properties. So I lost some of them through foreclosures, and the ones that I didn't have a bank loan on, where I had private money lenders on, I got so desperate. I went to my private lenders and said, look, I can't afford to pay what I promised to pay anymore. The most I can pay is just $100 a month. That's it, just $100 a month. So I end up negotiating my private lenders to because I didn't want to default on them. I've never default any of my private lenders ever before. I don't plan to. But I had to go back and negotiate with them, to waive some interest and lower the payments, so that way, I can still hold on to the property and make good on my loan to them. And so, yeah, like going through that, what I would have done differently now is, number one, I would definitely do a lot more wholesale deals, especially which is what I'm doing right now. So I was doing some major construction project, remodeling project, in even in 2020 here, but in 2021 here, without knowing the certainty of where the market's going to go next, I have scaled down my construction, my rehab business a lot, and do more wholesaling. So that way, and not only that, but the wholesale deals I'm getting, they're much fatter, much bigger margin. So I'm not too concerned about being able to wholesale them if I need to. And And yeah, and then I another thing that I learned too is that I should have went to my private lenders and renegotiate the the interest down way early on. I shouldn't have waited 2 years later to do that, because that ate a lot of profit. The properties that that didn't make sense to hold on, I should have let them go way earlier. Um, yeah, so those are some of the things I've learned along the way yeah, through that market. It was a very hard lesson to learn. I mean, like, I'm embarrassed still, just sharing about the mistakes I made through all of that. And yeah, I mean, thankfully, I mean, I've made back way more than I've lost there, but it was a very painful lesson going through all of that. So that's a bit about my story. Yeah. So, whew. All right, Tom.
That's a great story, man. Woo!
Thank you. Yeah. All right, Tom. So we'll go to you and your story, sir.
Oh, guys, my name is Tom Crow. My story is boring. I was a lawn care guy making about 55K a year. That was about 10 years ago now. And I was always trying to have a job and to do wholesaling real estate because my older brother, Todd Toback, was doing it, but it just never seemed to work. That's why I always tell my students who are asking me, I know all the coaches out there, they always say, we'll save up and work hard and then I am totally disagree with that advice. What worked for me and what works for most of my students that I find as a general theme is that they don't really do their first deal till they have a hunger and a need to do that, which is quitting their job or losing their job. So I think getting fired or quitting is a great way to start. And just find out real quick in 6 months if you could do this in 6 weeks rather than 6 months. And then I went to my brother Todd, and he told me what to do, and I did it, and it was awesome, and I loved every minute of it. And I made my first million by basically being a wholesaler, which is the art of consistently finding discounted properties. And I made my first million by just saving the cash from wholesaling and then cherry picking the best deals for my rental portfolio. And then something I learned from my big brother and Robert Kiyosaki was to take those smaller properties and just continually do something. It's called a 1031 exchange. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, I'm happy to answer that question later if you don't know what that is. But taking my tiny little seeds of those properties and then growing them into bigger and bigger and bigger properties and keeping them as free and clear as possible. And it's been a great adventure. And I haven't lost my first million, and I don't plan to. And I'll tell you that for anyone who's interested, and if I could just help one person tonight, it's this. If you go to the back of the REIA room and you ask the 65-year-olds and older, the ones who say that they had it all and they lost it all, and you say, well, what happened? What went wrong? It will almost always, so far, it's always only come down to 5 reasons. It comes down to debt, divorce, health, legal, and taxes, meaning playing games with your taxes, not paying them on time. So one of the things that I would encourage everybody to start doing right now tonight is, I know we're all trained from the time we start to be real estate investors to focus on cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. But I am here to tell you the safety net, and something that is equally as important, it's not more important or less important than net cash flow, is net worth. Measure your net worth as frequently, if not more frequently, than you measure your cash flow. Cash flow is great, but your cash flow should be building your net worth, not subtracting from it. And this is something that a lot of real estate investors, as Tim was saying earlier on this call, we've all been in a forgiving market for the last 10 years where every single thing that we buy is worth more tomorrow than it was yesterday. And that can change at any moment. And the people who aren't watching their net worth, those are the ones who can really get burned if that pendulum swings the other way. So I'm here to help and contribute in any way I can, and honored to be on the stage with Tim and all these other fine ladies and gentlemen.
Awesome, Tom. All right, I'm gonna reset the room real quick, y'all. Man, we have an absolutely amazing panel of speakers, experts here. You're gonna get to hear their stories. How they made and or lost their first $1 million and the painful lessons they've learned through that whole journey. We are recording this call and we are making it available to all of you under this one little condition, and that is that that we ask you to ping your friends to get them into this room. So click on that plus sign bottom right corner of your app and ping your friends who have the green um, the green dot on their picture. That means that they are actively on Clubhouse right now. Go ahead and ping them, take a screenshot of that, and DM it to me. To DM me, you click on my bio, scroll down to the bottom, click on my Instagram, and that's how you DM me, okay? And I'm gonna be sending the recording to everyone who sent me a screenshot that they're pinging your friends into into this group. So do that for me. All right. Great story, Tom. I'm glad you didn't have to go through that last market turn. And knowing what I know about you now, even the next cycle comes, you're well prepared to take advantage of that. So awesome, Tom. Jay, we go to you. I know you have an absolutely amazing story. So I'd love to hear that.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you having me on, man. And hopefully you guys get a lot out of my experiences. My name's Jay Adkins, and I am from the Columbus, Ohio area. And I got started in real estate in 2001. So, bam, as Tom Kroll would say, my 20-year
Yes,
anniversary.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a gong.
Oh, I get the gong. Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. So, my last job was then 2001, and I was managing a Scotch and cigar bar, serving drinks and meals and having a good old time. But my wife and I, Annie, started to have kids, and we decided we wanted to buy a house. So our first deal was our own house. And it wasn't but 3 years later that unfortunately, a sex offender moved in behind us, and we weren't really comfortable with our little children living there. So we decided to find a different property, and we had fixed up the first one that we lived in a little bit. It wasn't a complete rehab, but we did updates to it, and we rented it out. And so that first rent check I got, I made about $325 above what my mortgage payment was, and I was instantly hooked right then. So I was like, man, this is incredible. These guys are going to pay off my mortgage. I got my next house. I'm ready to do it again. So I went back to the bank, and during this period, my employment had ended. I actually, what Tom said, my employer that owned the Scotch and cigar bar, taxes. So the ATF came in, and I served them a drink, and I thought I was going to jail. And no, we had no liquor license. It had been canceled. So that was my last day on the job, and my last job as an employee. And Annie and I had already started an entertainment business. So we had started a hockey business. We're doing videography and photography, photo booth. We created, but I can that I was instantly hooked with the real estate because it seemed like I didn't have to do much to make $300 a month with that. So I went to the bank, like I was saying, and said, I'm ready to get another one. And they said, no, you're not. You don't make enough money. You don't have a job anymore. And so instantly I was crushed. But I can tell you that I went to the library. I started studying real estate. I discovered the Robert Allen No Money Down book. And so I started learning about lease options and subject twos and different creative financing. And so that's how I started acquiring my next deals. I picked up 3 more deals within a year. And right about that time, I would love to blame it on the market crash, but unfortunately, I had a lot of personal problems. I was drinking all the time, drinking and driving. Um, I got arrested numerous times, and I couldn't work anymore. I didn't have a driver's license. My wife lost her job. She was still working at a video store as a manager, and everything fell apart. I can tell you that the two properties that I owned, I ended up losing those two to foreclosure. And keep this in mind when you're investing. I had adjustable rate mortgages on both of those properties, and that was a big mistake. I thought, oh, I don't have to worry about this till later, right? I just put it in the back of my mind, and I never really truly grasped like what could happen. Um, and that was from my own ignorance. And I can tell you that if I had a coach or a mentor at that time, um, I don't believe I would have lost those properties. My mentor would have told me, don't get into those loans. Keep your loan to value low. I had maxed out on cash out refis and had adjustable rates, and I was doing everything wrong. So I went from a good amount of cash flow every month to now my rates went up. I'm at a negative cash flow. I don't have money to fix the properties that I had under lease option where tenants quit paying me and I didn't screen them right. So make sure you screen your tenants right. It's much easier to take a day ahead of time and make sure that you check all of their references, background, court records, any judgment liens. You want to really um, check out your tenants. It's a lot worse later on to deal with them if you find out that they don't have such a great history. So between terrible screening and terrible loan decisions, I ended up losing all of my properties. Thank God I got arrested one more time and wasn't killed, but I did go to jail, spent some time there, went into a treatment facility for 2 months. And that's when my life really turned around and really changed. That was the first time I actually asked God to help me, not help me get out of this, but help me to overcome this. And so thank God, still sober today, over 15
Hey
years
Jay,
later.
hey Jay, what year was that?
Oh, that was
That
15. That was 15 years
24?
ago.
Okay, so that would make it 2007, 2006.
Yeah. Yep.
2006.
2006.
Okay.
Yep. Right around in there. And so, yeah, 2006. That's exactly right. October 22nd. That was the last time that I got arrested. Thank God. So, again, like Tom said, personal challenges and poor financing decisions. Okay. So, I honestly was going to be homeless in just a few weeks, and I was doing construction. I had rehabbed my first 5 properties myself, even the ones that I got on lease option. It was an investor that bought it at the sheriff's sale and then sold it to me on a lease option, let me do all the repairs. So I had good construction experience, and I started rehabbing some high-end people's homes and was able to get in with a large commercial investor, who I convinced him, hey, I've done properties. Why don't we do deals together? You buy them, you buy the material. I'll live there. I'll rehab it while I'm living there. And then we'll sell it and make money. So instantly I got right back in the game 2 weeks after being foreclosed on at my own house. And my wife and I literally moved in with our little kids and started rehabbing this old house. It's crazy, but we had done a bunch of kitchen renovations and hadn't turned the water on yet. But the day we turned the water on, the pipes had been frozen in the ceiling and they burst, and I wasn't home, and water comes crashing into the kitchen. and the entire ceiling collapses. So welcome to our new house. Day one moving in. So lots of fun, lots of challenges there in the beginning. Can you guys hear me okay still?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, Annie's on here. Welcome,
you were
honey.
breaking out a little bit, but yeah. Yes.
I just got on.
All right. Excellent. So at that point, we started doing JV deals, joint venture deals, where you let someone else bring the money and bankroll it, and you do the work, and you do a 50-50 split. So we did that for a few years until we were able to buy our own house again. And then we started doing flips. So as the market's crashing, Annie and I are buying properties and starting to do flips. It's funny because during the market downturn, the average days on market was 9 months. It wasn't days, it was months. And so when we would get a flip, we would sell it in 3 months. And that was really, really good. So we would anticipate the property value from the day we bought it until we sold it to drop 10%. So we would have to figure that in to our buy, fix, and sell formula. And so that's how we were doing flips in a down market, but only one at a time. It's a little more risky to do that in a down market, but primarily we were focused on buying rentals then. We were bank qualified again, so we started buying rentals, using some private money, using some hard money, and so we amassed a whole other rental portfolio. Right now, we float. Oh, okay. Somebody just accidentally popped in. So right now we hold right around 25 to 30 properties at a time. We are growing our rental portfolio more. We're picking up about 10 properties here in the first quarter, and we've planned to shift. We've been doing a ton of flips. We were doing about 5 to 7 flips at a time the last 4 to 5 years. We do wholesaling. Thank you, Tom Kroll, for doubling our wholesale fees. I guess Tom left, but Tom's a great coach. I took his course a number of years ago and quickly learned how to make double on the same deals. So huge benefit with that. So as we're transitioning now, we're doing less flips, similar to what Tim Mai said, and we're adding more rentals. Part of that's because money is so inexpensive right now. And we are anticipating a lot of landlords to be stuck where they haven't been able to make payments or their tenants aren't paying or something like that. So Annie and I have the ability to come in and offer them a way out without them having to go through foreclosure. So we will do subject to deals, takeover. We've helped dozens and dozens and dozens of sellers stop foreclosure and stop from ruining their credit and giving them peace of mind. It's very, very satisfying when you've lost your own home and you know how that feels for you to be able to come in and help other homeowners and other investors to relieve that stress from them. And we have multiple tools that we can use to do that now, and we're here to serve them.
That's awesome. Hey, Jay, I just want to make sure I clarify. So is the pre-foreclosure market your primary lead source that you guys target?
Right now, I would say that we are targeting more landlords, and they may or may not be behind on their payments, but absentee owners.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So great. We're definitely gonna circle back and go more into the strategies for sure. But yeah. Anything else you wanna share to sort of wrap up this part of it?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one of the key points that you want to make sure, just try to keep your loan to values low if you are using funding for your rentals. We've been able to buy and sell anytime we want because we stay under 70% loan to value. And also, DM me if you're interested. Any of the ladies out there, my wife is doing the Badass Women's Summit tomorrow and Saturday. If you're interested, it's free. DM me and I'll get you an invite.
Awesome. All right. Annie, I don't know if you got to hear much of what Jay was sharing, but is there anything you wanted to add on your side about it?
Just I did hear most of it. I lived most of it, obviously, or all of it, but I did hear most of it. The biggest thing is that, yeah, we just had nowhere to turn and nobody to kind of like, it was before all of the foreclosures that happened in the crash. So it was, nobody really knew what a foreclosure or even what a short sale was. Foreclosures, obviously, we knew about, but there was no discussion. There was nobody to turn to. So that's what we really strive to provide for everybody that we come into contact with and do business with, because we had nobody to kind of guide us or help us, or even anybody really to ask questions to. And the banks definitely aren't going to do that in that situation. So that's my big thing.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Having someone to help you navigate through, the market, any market really, definitely helps a lot. So great. Thank you, Jay. Thank you,
Hey,
Benny.
Tim. Thanks, man.
Yes.
I had one question. I got a couple people messaging me questions. Do you want to wait for that later?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna do questions. You guys, if you want to send questions, feel free to DM me, and then after everybody go through and share their story, we're gonna open up for questions, and we're gonna dive deeper into the strategies that they have used in the past, the strategies that they're using now, how they're planning to navigate this upcoming market. So we're going to be going in through some of that here. But yeah, so for now, if you have questions, go ahead and DM me, and then I'll once everybody gets to go through and share, their story, then we'll go into the Q&A. So thank you, Jay. Reset the room real quick here. As you guys can see, I mean, gosh, we have lots of success stories on this line, and yeah, almost everyone here have been through, ups and downs of the real estate business. And so, yeah, so they're here to share either how they made their first million or how they lost their first million, or both. And what they're doing now that's different. So we are recording this call, and we are going to be making this call, the recording available. However, there's a small catch, and the catch is that you have to ping your friends and take a screenshot of that and DM it to me. To DM me, you click on my bio, scroll down to the bottom, click on my Instagram, DM me the screenshot of that. And as soon as we have the recording available, I'm going to send it to you. There'll be some. I mean, I'm sure there'll be tons of gems that we're going to learn from this call. And so I'm really hoping that we'll have such good stuff that we can even turn this into a book. These stories. So yeah, we'll see. All right, Rod, we go to you next. I know, you haven't gone through the last market crash, and so I'd love to hear your story, just, how you have been able to take advantage of this seller's market that we've been in for the.
Right. Can everybody hear me? Okay, good. So, so I didn't go through any market crash. I've been doing real estate since the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, and my net worth grew really, really fast because I think I was just willing to just try anything without having to be an expert on it, or without really fully knowing. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but if I thought I knew about it, I just tried it. And I started off just doing wholesaling. And after my first deal, I ran into a guy here in Houston who owned a home builders franchise. And I sold him a house in a town called Katy, which is west of Houston. And he really liked the house. And he talked me down on my price. We both were kind of happy. I was making $4,000 on that deal, which is probably more than I would have made in 2 months as a lawn guy. So I was still really happy about that. And after talking to him, I was really hungry to learn. And so he actually offered me a job being a buyer for him, and it was a really good salary. And so I figured I'd just pay myself to learn. And so um, while working for him, it kind of gave me insight to rehabbing, to marketing, and to doing all of these different things, while at the same time I was making money. And I used the money that I made from working for home investors to put into my own marketing. And so it kind of helped me grow even faster in that first year. But I learned about something called subject to investing, and it really helped me grow even faster. It helped me grow my portfolio and helped me get a lot of houses under my belt, like really fast. It started with a guy bringing the deal to me. He didn't know what to do with it because the margins were too high for a wholesale or really for a rehab. There was a mortgage on it. The seller just wanted to get out of it, and I think he wanted to walk away with like $1,000. So the investor who brought the deal to me, he didn't really know what to do, so he just kind of let me take it over. I gave the guy $1,000, and I went to my attorney. My attorney drew up the docs, and the guy deeded it to me, and that was the start of it. So that year, I might have got like 7 deals like that. So my net worth started growing really fast, and meanwhile, I'm making a ton of money on wholesaling, and my life is suddenly starting to change. Now, I pride I my I pride myself on being a very thankful person, because before I found real estate, I was struggling real bad, but I would always be very thankful, intentionally thankful. Like, I would go through my house and I would pick up a pair of shoes and I would just say, God, I thank you even for these shoes. I would just intentionally be thankful for my family. And I think that of Thanksgiving really opened the door. And I think God blessed me because of that. And then as I'm growing and the money starts coming in, like I would never go to sleep at night without getting on my knees and just listing things that I was thankful for. But when I started making a lot of money, I got away from being thankful. And we started when we started making money, I would go out and I would buy gift cards, and I would just give them away to random people. I would go and buy 20 Chick-fil-A cards for $10, and I would go buy Whataburger cards, and I would just, throughout my week, I would just bless just different people. And so I got away from doing all of that because I started making so much money, and I wanted to just buy stuff that I never had. My wife and I, we just started spending, and it kind of got out of control, and it kind of messed my business up because the cash flow that I was using to manage all of my mortgages and make sure things were paid, I started slipping. But I wouldn't worry about it because I'd just say, hey, I'll close another deal, and we'll get things caught up. And I started slipping really bad. But I was addicted almost to the spending. I mean, we started hanging out at the Galleria. We were buying, Gucci, and I wanted red bottoms, and I came from the landscape world, so I would always drive pickup trucks. I went and bought me a Land Rover, and then I got a Mercedes, and just everything that I thought I wanted, I was just going to buy it, and it was really the wrong thing to do at the time. Even though I was making a lot of money, I believe that God was blessing me to position me for the future, but I couldn't see it at that time. I just thought, hey, it's mine. I'm gonna, you only live once. I'm gonna just enjoy it, and it started catching up with me. And I had some rehabs going. I had private money that I had borrowed, and it just started dominoing down. I just started spiraling out of control, and eventually I hit the bottom, and I had to go back to God. I had to go back to my roots, and evaluate and say, hey, this is what happened, and went back to my lenders and renegotiated some things, got some things sold, and just started to rebuild. Thank God we made it out, but hindsight, never forget where you come from and how you got there, because as fast as you rise, you can get knocked over.
That's awesome. All right. Yeah, Rob, were you? Yeah. I don't know if you got cut off, or were you complete with what you?
Yeah,
Yeah, your
no,
story.
that's it. I didn't want to take too much. I just kind of gave you the short version, but yeah, just
That's
uh,
awesome.
yeah, just keep it in mind where you started, and don't lose and stay focused.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. That's I think like many of us, I know for me, like I grew up dirt poor, right? It was just my older brother and I. He was 19, I was 12 years old when we migrated here to the US. So two teenage boys, we didn't have anything. And so yeah, so when I first made a lot of money, like you, Rod, I went and bought the toys and the cars and the big house and all of that stuff. And yeah, got way over my head with those kind of stuff too. So great to hear your story, buddy. All right, Theo, we go to you next, sir. Um, yeah, share with us, about your journey of how you made and or lost your first $1 million in real estate.
Hey, can you have Darren go real quick, and I'll go after him? I just gotta finish something.
Sure,
Sorry.
sure. Darren, are you ready?
I am ready more than ever.
Awesome. Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me on here. So I always like to say I had two real estate careers. I started out in the late 90s. I was at my business, and my business partner at the time had a little 12 CDs of Carlton Sheets. So I listened to the CDs and said, hey, you know what? I'm a real estate master now. I know everything. Let's go out and get it. So we started buying up houses. It turned out we were buying them from a wholesaler. We didn't know he was a wholesaler. We just were getting loans from him, but he was wholesaling us houses, making about 20 grand a house on us. And we were just buying these little junk houses. And sometimes we do the repairs and put money into it. Back then we were getting a lot of cash out at closing. So they just cut us a check right at closing, and I'd fix them up and do some repairs, and had no clue how to manage them. So first person to come along, I was like, yep, you want to rent it? In the house. That sucked. Had one lady just came in there on a Wednesday. She said, oh, I get paid Friday. I'll go ahead and give you the first and security deposit. I said, okay, great. Put her in there. 6 months later. So I didn't know how to evict her. So finally somebody told me how to evict her, tried to evict her. Had another guy came in and said, the house needed to be rehabbed. So that's what kind of work he did. He wasn't a contractor. He's a good handyman, but put him in the house. I said, here, I'll buy everything and you do it. So I bought all new kitchen cabinets, refrigerator, stove, toilets, flooring, paint, everything, whole 9 yards. So he went and did it. And he said, let me live here for 9 months for free. I'll do all the work. I said, okay, that's fine. So then come when he's finished with it, he said, no, I want $7,000. Excuse me. So I said, what? I said, that's not what we agreed on. Had no paperwork, no nothing. He said, okay, all right, don't worry about it. I said, okay. So I went back there about a week later, 2 weeks later. Everything was gone. He had literally stole everything out of this house. It was like I walked into the house that I first bought. I said, oh man, this guy. So then I rented out some more, and of course they didn't pay, and I had about 8 properties at a time, and I just threw my hands up. I said, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I had got behind on my payments, so I just put my head in the shell and let everything get foreclosed on. Foreclosed on everything. I ended up going through bankruptcy, just lost my mind, and so the heck with this, and I stayed out of it. And throughout the years, I just kept thinking, I know real estate's the answer. I know real estate's the answer. There's so many millionaires created in real estate and passive income and high net worth, and I just know it. So in about 2016, I decided to start taking some classes. So I flew all over the country for probably 2 years straight, just taking everybody's class. Taking class after class, and I was that guy that I felt like I had to learn everything and know everything before I can even try to go out and do anything, which probably is the wrong way to do it. But I learned a lot, flying all over, and I took all the good with the good and threw out the bad, and kind of came up with my own little system. So then I started really focusing on long-term holds. I talked to a lot of wholesalers, and a lot of the wholesalers, they all said they wanted to get into long-term holds, and then all the fix and flip guys seemed like they wanted to do long-term holds. So I said, you know what, let me just focus on long-term holds. So I learned a lot of creative financing. I learned a lot of subject to wraps, owner financing, things like that. Started doing that, and just started acquiring houses. I talked to a guy, and he had mentioned, I told him my goals. I said I just wanted $20,000-$25,000 a month in passive income. And he said, well, you can just get one house a month, get you 50 houses, 4 years and 2 months down the road from now, you're retired. I said, yeah, you're right. So that's what my theory has been. So I've just been doing this by myself, kind of. I've been working with a lot of wholesalers. I talk to them and tell them that the deals that they'd throw out, if they don't have any equity or just don't quite fit the wholesale model, send it my way and let me see if I can come up with something creative. And I've been working with a lot of realtors. And I'll do some marketing here and there. I don't really stay consistent. I'm going to start staying a little bit more consistent on it. But I just started acquiring houses. So in the last 20 months, I've acquired 24 homes, all single family homes. And then I have a program where I help people that normally wouldn't qualify for loans. I help them to end up with home ownership. So it's kind of a rent to own, but I'm not the guy that collects, $15,000 up front and kicks them out after 2 years. I don't think that's really ethical. So I don't have any term limits to it. So if they want to stay in the program for 10 years, they're more than welcome to. And then what I do is I help them. I'll do a lease option. They'll start out as a renter. They can do a lease option, and then I can owner finance them. And then their goal is to get to the bank and then get the bank financing and lower their payments. So it works really well because on the renter side, they're not regular renters. They're actually working to buy the house. So it helps out there, and I give them credit. So I don't do any kind of repairs on any houses that I rent and put in our program. I'll have them come in. I'll explain to them that the house needs some work, and then they'll go ahead and they can do the work, and it comes off the price of the house. So I save all my money up front, not putting it into the houses. I've had houses that have been complete need of rehabs. Like they've started a rehab and gutted the kitchen and gutted the bathrooms and took the flooring out and took some drywall down. And I put contractors in there, and they go in there and they fix everything up, and they work on a rent to own program. And they end up, working to buy the house, and that way they can create a lot of equity, and then they can get to the bank, and it has a low loan to value, and they'll qualify for a loan. So it helps them out a lot. But I just been, like Tom was saying earlier, working on my net worth and checking that, just trying to acquire houses. And typically I try to buy them 70% loan to value or less. That way it's a little bit more secure if something in the market were to change. So I think my average is probably 62% loan to value is what I have in the houses, and just getting all that equity. Bam, there you go. Getting all that equity. So I don't check my net worth as much as Tom, but I check it probably every 3 or 4 months. I have a whole spreadsheet, and I go in there and check it and keep a little tally. And it's actually pretty crazy because, I'm cash flowing it all, but I put a lot of money back into the business and back into these houses. And then I'll check the net worth. I'll feel like, man, I don't feel like I have all this extra money in the bank. And I check my net worth, and it went up $300,000 in like 4 months. And I'm like, man, okay, this is sweet. So it's pretty crazy
Look,
to see that.
that
So.
deserve a bell and a gong.
You got both, double whammy.
Double whammy.
So yeah, it's awesome to see. So I really like the whole long-term hold model of it, and that's pretty much where I'm at now. So it's been going pretty well.
Awesome, Dan. Thanks, buddy, for sharing your awesome story there. Yeah, man, I am so inspired by hearing y'all's story for sure. It's awesome. Okay, Theo, you ready yet?
Yes, sir.
Actually, real quick before we go to you, I'm gonna reset the room real quick here. Guys, I mean, you've heard some of these stories already. From losing, from coming from rags to riches to losing it all and making it back. Very inspiring stories. We are recording this call. If you want a recording of this, ping your friends right now. Click on the plus sign at the bottom right side of your screen. Ping your friends. Take a screenshot of that. DM me. And as soon as we get the recording up, probably tomorrow, we'll probably tonight even, since we're streaming this live to YouTube, so we'll have the recording right away. So I'll send you the recording. Okay, that's all I ask, is that you ping your friends, get them in here so they too can hear these stories. We're gonna open up for questions here, so that way we can dive deeper into how each of our speakers here navigate through the market cycles and their challenges. So, all right, Theo, we go to you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, I think Tom said it earlier where we've been riding the wave up, right? So I've been lucky enough to just been riding the wave up. And I guess to kind of go back on my background, I was initially born in Romania. I moved here to the United States at 10 years old, really started from nothing. Parents were just, busting, working all sorts of jobs, trying to, get up in the world. Eventually, I went to college, got an engineering degree, and saw that wasn't for me. So I essentially just used that W-2 income and just started stacking rental, one by one, slowly. I didn't really do enough studying or anything. I just read a few books and just went for it, and then just kind of started, saving one by one and just kind of stacking those up. And eventually I got to the point where, not that I replaced my income, but I saw that there was way more possibility in real estate. So I just went all in and I started doing fix and flips and just partnering up with the right people to help me, make those connections and have, a good operation and a good system. So that way I could scale that. And, now we're at the point where I partnered up with a guy and we started a property management company, and we manage all of my rentals, all of his rentals, all of other people's rentals. We do flips in there, and we do a lot of turnkeys, and they're for out-of-state investors. So my story is essentially, right on the coattails of the good times, because I only started doing this, I think like 6 or 7 years ago. And, I've been very fortunate, and I've done a lot of studying on what people did during the last recession. And I've been trying to strategically make the right moves as to not get too leveraged and make sure that I'm conservative on my numbers. And that's essentially a short recap of my story. But, it's like what Tom said. If being in the market during this time, it wasn't it wasn't really hard to look good being a real estate investor.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, this upcoming market, we'll definitely get to see, who's that. What is Warren Buffett calls it, like kind of emperor with no clothes, right? See, we'll see who's naked when the tide goes down. Right?
That's right.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Theo. All right, Brian, we go to you.
Tim, you are awesome for hosting all these rooms, man. You are absolutely crushing it. I love being a part of your rooms. You have, again, assembled an incredible panel, and I'm honored to be here. My story is pretty boring, I think. I learned how to do wholesaling 45 days after I learned what wholesaling was, I got my first check, went out and took massive, as Tom would say, massive imperfect action, and failed in a million different ways. And I hustled and hustled and hustled and finally got my first check, $10,000. Took me 45 days to do that, wholesaled a deal here in Birmingham, Alabama. From there, I was actually a college basketball coach. I didn't touch real estate for 6 more months after that. Starting in 2013, I started my kind of wholesaling career, my real estate career. Did 150,000 that first full year, doubled it the next year, doubled that the next year after that, and then some. And it took me 3 years to get to my first million, all through for the most part, mostly through wholesaling. And that's kind of the story, that maybe where the plot twist is I started investing this money into what I thought were great rental properties, because if you look at it on paper, where I live in Birmingham, you can buy rental property. You can buy houses for literally less than $5,000. And I wish I had Tom Kroll's 2020. I wish I had 2021 Tom Kroll as my real estate coach in 2015, because I went and just did pretty much what he says not to do. I went and bought a lot of really low end properties. And I was that guy who just assembled a ton of rental property that looked great on paper. But as most of us kind of get into the business, into the rental game, it's not what you think it is. And what happens on paper, what you see on paper, is not what it actually is. And so anyway, it's dealing with bad tenants, dealing with bad properties, dealing with break-ins, dealing with evictions, and dealing with just all this junk that comes with low-end property. Ended up getting out of that. I ended up getting into some larger kind of multifamily stuff, some office stuff. And long story short, I've not lost $1 million yet, but I have lost around 400,000 total when it comes to real estate investing, just making bad investments, making bad decisions. But I've learned a lot and am kind of getting through a lot. So that's kind of my story. We can get into the details if you want, but that's kind of my story in real estate investing. Tim.
That's awesome, Brian. Yeah. So yeah, it's cool to hear you share that you have had bad sort of where because whenever people talk about rentals, a lot of time we hear the good side of rentals and how a lot of people get rich with rental property. So it's always good to also hear the other side, how rentals can go wrong, right? So yeah, we're definitely gonna drill deeper into that, Brian.
For sure. I think just real quick, Tim, let me just add this too. And this is where I wish I had that Tom Kroll from 2021 coaching me, where, I hear Tom preaching all the time that once you've kind of found the golden goose, the goose that laid the golden egg, why are entrepreneurs constantly chasing, for the most part, these shiny objects? I was the biggest wholesaler in my city. I was the biggest game in town. I was absolutely crushing it, but that was not good enough. I decided to go out and do dumb things instead of doubling and tripling down on what I was already great at and dominating. And that's kind of the lesson for the day is, stick to one thing. And when you're great at it, get it to where it's automated. Don't just abandon it like I did. Get it to where it's automated, get it to where it's a true business, and work on that. And that's where I really, really wish I could rewind and go back 4 or 5 years. And that's the lesson that I hope people can learn from the story.
That's awesome, Brian. All right. Jay, did you want to jump in or anything?
I was just applauding Brian because that was a great tip.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, Brian. Thank you. All right, Steve, we go to you. Can't wait to hear your story of how you made and or lost your first $1 million in real estate.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Tim. Hey, it's Steve Richards. I own a small group of properties, the CEO Nation and Team Architects being the ones that I spend the most time in. I do own 3 or 4 real estate businesses, and my story is a little interesting. You guys can read my bio if you want to see some details about what I'm doing or done. But my story, in relation, Tim, to our topic tonight, I think I'll tell it this is still out cards. And number one is the first time that I hit a seven figure figure was in net worth. And so within 3 or 4 years into the business, I amassed $1 million of equity in a portfolio of property, just by buying right. And the market, which I think a lot of us would agree to right now, sometimes a good market makes people look good, right? And so this was on the tail end, heading towards 2008. But I built a portfolio of rentals, and we had a lot of equity in those rentals, or at least I felt that we did. But one thing that I did wrong was that I used leverage completely to get there, and the equity was from buying them right. We didn't earn that or grow that equity from paying down. So we took the cash flow that was coming in, and we were using that to fund other pieces of the business. We didn't keep the right reserves. We didn't, literally, this is for another room, Tim, but I had somebody pull me aside in late 2005 and tell me that in 2008, everything was going to crash, and then I needed to be out during 2007, go in all cash in 2008, wait till 2009, buy every house I could buy until 2011, sell all those as the market comes back in 2011 and 12, and buy commercial real estate in 12 and 13, and then wait until 2016, 17 to sell that. Literally, you would think they were a profit. And I remember walking out of that meeting thinking, gosh, man, that guy's like Chicken Little. Sky's falling, the market's going to crash. I don't even believe this. So it was interesting that one tip that I'll give people is that I had some sage advice. There was 2 pieces of advice from this guy. He also said, hey, as you grow this business, you guys are starting to do some cool things. What I would do is go find someone who was in the business in 89, 90, when there was a market crash, and also people that own properties in 99, 2000 during that, not a market crash, but a recession or an economic change. And he said, go seek those people out and ask them how to prepare and what you should do. I didn't take that advice either. So when the market shifted, we were scrambling, and as we couldn't keep properties rented and there was a lot of economic pressure, we lost all that equity and ended up owning properties that were, after we went and sold them, we basically would get out about what we would have into them. We ended up converting a lot of those to rent to owns, which with subprime mortgage rates at the time in 2007 and 8, we thought, this is cool. Once they make some payments, we'll just sell these off rent to own, because we couldn't keep them as rentals. And as that melted away, now we were really stuck that we had people in our houses that weren't really the most qualified. They just gave us some good down payments, and so we mismanaged. So not understanding how to maintain and build our equity, not heeding the advice of experts, and not knowing how to manage a portfolio were the biggest 3 downfalls to us losing that first $1 million that we built in equity in a portfolio. Over the next 6 or 7 years, I built a turnkey business. It took me 6 additional years to get that to $1 million in revenue. And I literally, besides paying myself a 6-figure salary, had nothing to show for that, because I didn't know how to run a business. I would lie to myself and say that I was reinvesting in the business, and I would spend the money on employees and bigger offices. And literally, I was a self-employed guy who was out and hiring his sister's cousin's brother because I didn't think I deserved real employees. I didn't know how to do it either. And so we did hundreds and hundreds of turnkey properties that had millions of dollars of revenue that built up over that first 6-year period in the next couple of years. And literally wasn't able to keep any of that because we didn't know how to run a business. I didn't know how to build a team, and I wasn't focused. And so there's 2 times that I had 7 figures and nothing to show for it. And
Wow.
so over the last 3 or 4 years, now we have 7 figures of revenue in our real estate businesses, and we own other businesses. I only work in those a few hours a week, and you know, I don't anticipate having the same issues that I did in the past. And what, as you guys see me in these rooms, I always take the advice of people. I'm in masterminds. I have coaches. I take the advice of people that have been there and done that. I've learned and become a student of the game to learn how to run a business, and we've also learned how to manage and deal with equity and leverage in properties correctly, which has now set us up for bigger and better things as we start to buy commercial properties. So that's my story, and this is Steve Richards. I'm just always excited, Tim, to be on your panels.
That's awesome, Steve. Yeah, definitely would, definitely want to drill down further in a little bit into your, how you learn to turn the business from a self-employed, right, working in the business into, a real business where now you're the CEO, and sort of the not so much an employee in the business anymore. You're sitting more in the owner's box, right? So that's
I'm the worst.
awesome.
Not only am I not an employee, Tim, I would be absolutely the worst employee. Now that we have a rock star team, I would be the worst employee. I want to get that straight.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely looking forward to learn that. All right, I'm gonna reset the room real quick. Guys, as you've been hearing already, just absolutely amazing stories from rags to riches to rags to riches. And how our experts, including myself, navigate through this whole journey, and the lessons that we learn. We're gonna drill further down in just a little bit here. We're gonna be opening up for questions here as well. We are recording this call, and so if you want a recording, the link to the recording of this call, make sure you ping your friends in here, DM me a screenshot of that, and yeah, as soon as we have the link to the recording, I'll send you the link, so that way you can go back and re-listen to this. There's going to be tons of wisdom that's going to be shared on this call for sure. So do that, and of course follow each and every one of our experts here on the panel. And if you resonate with their story, definitely reach out to them on IM. Let them know how much you appreciate them sharing their story, because if it inspires you to take action, if it inspires you to get in there, and whether you're gonna build your new business or getting you back on your feet, after some challenging times, definitely let them know that their story inspire you, and you appreciate them. Okay. All righty. Next we go to is that
Najee. Najee. How's it going?
Najee. I was like, man, this is gonna be a hard one
It's gonna be
for them
brutal.
to
Kick the can. Kick the can.
Najee.
Thank you for inviting me to the room. I think I've been in a couple rooms with Brian and Tio, and Tom invited me up. Steve, I love your story of just the honesty around the realities of this game. So oftentimes we talk about the good, but we never really talk about the bad. But I'm an investor in the Houston area. Tim, are you from Houston?
I'm here in Houston. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
I'm like, I know your name, and I just searched my email, and I've got emails back from you for, I don't know, 5-6 years ago in my email box. So definitely I know we never met,
Awesome.
but I got some of your old emails from back in the day. But yeah, I'm from Houston. I grew up in the Third Ward area. For those people that know Houston, born and raised, grew up from very, very humble beginnings, and I never dreamed of trying to make $1 million in real estate. I came from the traditional path of work hard, go to college, work my way up to go to the University of Texas, and majored in economics, loved economics, and just come out and make a job. I went into college thinking, hey, if I can make $40,000, I'm rich. I'm in life. But got out of college and got on and got a cool job as a buyer at Foley's department stores, and I just thought I had the best job in the world. It was the coolest job in the world to actually be a buyer. and I thought I was going to work for them for 30 years. So my story is kind of along that old school, Robert Kiyosaki path. That's kind of where I took my got my stripes. But within 3 years of that company, I'm moving up. I'm getting awards within the company, and they announced the merger with Macy's, and Macy's bought them out, and they quickly said, "Hey, we're going to close the division down in Houston." And so I'm thinking to myself at 25, "Hey, you know, one day I'm going to retire this company and work with this company for 30 years. The next day they're saying, hey, come interview for your job. And oh, by the way, if we give you a job, you can go move to Atlanta or New York or whatever." Fortunately enough, they actually did give me a job offer, but I looked around the room and I saw all the people who were training me, who was 20, 25 years old, not even getting 20, 25 years older than me, not getting job offers. And I said to myself, that's going to be me. And I need to do something. So at an early age, I made the decision that, I wanted financial freedom, and I started to get educated. Got some mentors, got educated, and I literally just kind of did a non-sexy path. I took, back, and timing was really huge for me. So I would say right around '09, the market crash. That's kind of where I was getting a little capital, and I was able to get my education, and that's kind of where I started my first investment property. I did it on my own home. Bought a foreclosure because it was a foreclosure crisis, right? Was able to get a FHA 203K loan, where they gave me funds to actually fund my renovation. And 6 months later, during the crisis, I had about $80,000 worth of equity. And from there, 6 months later, 6 to 8 months later, we took out a line of credit, cash out refi, and for $40,000. And I remember this day, I had 40 grand, and I was looking around the city for a rental because I knew I wanted to do a rental and do it again. And I saw a house for about 70 grand in Houston at the time, and it needed some work. And I only had 40,000 though, but that's all I had. And I offered 40. And back then they were taking it. The banks was taking all kind of stuff. And I got that house, and I put a lot of sweat equity in, just real old school. Went to Home Depot, spent about $1,800 on there, and was able to rent that house out for about $950 after that. And so I was cash flowing about $450, somewhere around there. And I just literally started buying homes, once every 6 to 8 months, as I was able to scratch together some cash. I got a new job, ended up getting on with Nike, that they paid pretty well, and we were getting some stock, and we were still in the crisis. And I literally was just taking every savings that I could get, and we were buying houses cash. I was using hard money. I was putting 20% down. I mean, any way you can do it. I probably bought a house off of Tim maybe. And we were just going every 6 to 8 months, just buying them off. Because I had a job, my wife was a teacher, she had a job. We just used all the cash flow. So very old school, all the cash flow we were making. If it was 500 from this house, 1,000 from that house, each cash flow we got and we acquired, we just used that to pay off the previous house. And so sooner or later, I guess maybe about 5 or 6 years of doing that, we're sitting on 8 or 9 houses all paid for.
Nice.
And again, just very old school. It's not sexy, but that's what we were doing. A few years ago, about 2.5, 3 years ago, I finally wised up to start to educate myself on multifamily. Again, my goal really wasn't ever to be super rich. We just wanted to raise our floor in life. Like, we just literally wanted to say, I didn't want to be poor anymore, or if I got laid off, could I have a cushion? That was all we were trying to do. And about 3 years ago, we decided to scale. We realized, okay, one, the cash flow we're getting is nice, but it's not going to retire both of us and take care of our kids, because life changes, right? Like when I got started, we had no kids. Now we've got 2. So, okay, it was one thing paying for me, but now I got to pay for my wife and my kids and all that. And so we started to get educated in multifamily. And that's where I really started to learn around infinite returns. I know a lot of people aren't necessarily talking infinite returns in these rooms, but that's something that I'm really passionate about. And so it took 2 homes that we had paid off. By the way, those 2 homes I had bought for $21,000 a piece, $42,000 all in on a deal that a friend sent me. And again, back then, this is maybe 2012. You could get crazy deals like that in Houston. And I bought those sight unseen. And so again, bought them cash. A couple years later, we took the cash out refi, got about 200 grand out of those. And then I took that 200 grand and I bought my first apartment complex about 2.5 years ago. And with that 200 grand. And now, 2.5 years in, again, it was a toe up apartment complex, a lot of sweat equity. I'm still working on it now. But if anybody knows anything about multifamily, we bought that apartment for about 42,000 a door.
Nice.
So if you know anything about multifamily right now, trading in Houston, I think my valuation is close to about 75 grand a door, and we've got well over a million in equity fast forward. So that's kind of where we're at now.
That is awesome. Yeah, great story. How many doors are there for that unit?
It was 21.
21. Nice. Awesome. Yeah. Man, great story, RJ. Thank you so much for sharing that, buddy. Yeah, we're gonna go into details on some of these strategies and infinite returns. We definitely, yeah. Hey guys, speakers, as you know, as you think of like topics like that you'd like to to share with everybody on today's call, make sure you keep a note of that. So if I forget to ask you about it, definitely do bring it up. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open up some questions for all of you guys here. So a couple of different things that we've heard, and so let's talk about let's talk about rentals. I know some of you talked about how rentals make a big difference for you with the cash flow. So I'd like to talk about that and also address what Brian was saying about how he got the low end rentals that gave him a lot of headache. So talk about sort of the what to look out for, right? So rentals. Who wants to share about that? Want to start?
I mean, I can definitely start with the low end rentals because I'm in what they call a cash flowing market, and I can kind of talk to what they call a C class rental property. Do you want me to expand on that a little bit, Tim?
Yes, definitely, yeah.
So when you first get into real estate, and I'm not trying to talk down to anybody or up to anybody, so I don't know what level people are at, but I'll just kind of start from the beginning. When you first get into real estate, you hear things like this is an A-class property, B-class neighborhood, C-class. You kind of hear A, B, C. You don't really hear anything else. And in terms of what they call turnkey real estate investing, which is what I kind of got into here in Birmingham, because we're in what they call a cash flowing market, these secondary markets, like a Birmingham, a Memphis, even, Steve is in one in Indianapolis. I don't see Steve in here right now, but he'll probably come back. Kansas City, Charlotte, these kind of what they call secondary markets, where if you do the math, if you look at it on paper, you can buy houses all fixed up with a tenant in place for somewhere in the 50 to 70,000 range, and they'll rent for anywhere from $700 to $850, $900. And that's retail. That's retail prices. And if you do the math, that works out to be, after all your expenses, after taxes and insurance and property manager, and after expected repairs, CapEx, things like that. After you pay out all your expenses, and if there's a mortgage, your returns are going to be somewhere. If you pay cash, they're going to be somewhere in the 8 to 10% range, which looks pretty decent on paper. And if you put a mortgage on it, it's actually going to be more like in the 14 to 18% range. So, and that's obviously why people like to leverage. That's why people say, you leverage, you can do more, you can get greater returns and things like that. Well, I played that game here in Birmingham in a quote unquote cash flowing market. But I played that game on paper. I played it a little bit better because I'm a wholesaler. I know how to get great deals. I can find these properties that these turnkey real estate companies are selling for $50,000 to $60,000, $70,000. I can literally buy these houses for $5,000, $10,000, maybe put $10,000, $20,000 into them. I'm in these houses for on average 25 to 30 grand, probably not even that much actually in most cases. And I can rent them for 750, 800, 850. Now you do that math, that's 30, 40, in some cases 50, 80% returns. And then not to mention, doing some creative stuff. I got into the creative finance game where I'm negotiating seller financing, 0 down, sub 2, taking over mortgages. So I'm literally in these properties for nothing, renting them out. Yeah, I got to pay a mortgage. I have to pay I've got to pay financing, but I'm in them for nothing, which means if you're in it for nothing and you're making money, that's an infinite return. So I played that game for a couple of years and it looked great. I got up to 77 rental properties, and it, again, on paper, it looks fantastic. But what people don't tell you about, and what I had to learn kind of the hard way, is first and foremost, a property management company to handle kind of what we call lower end rentals. A turnkey rental company would say that these are C-class. I would call them war zone properties. These are in some of the worst areas of town. And you can get them super cheap and you can rent them out and it looks great, but they don't tell you that there's no such thing as even a decent property manager in these areas. It doesn't exist. They absolutely don't exist.
That's a fact.
So you've got bad property managers and you've got bad property in a bad area, bad schools, crime. You've got all this all this stuff going on, but again, to newbie kind of wannabe real estate investor, man, everything on paper looks amazing, but in the real world facts of life, tenants aren't paying. You got to go to get them evicted. They're going to absolutely tear up the place. You've got all these costs to get it fixed up. While you're fixing it up, it's getting broken into. And you're stealing pipes, water pipes, they're copper, they're stealing air conditioning units, they're stealing anything and everything. They're busting windows. And what they don't tell you is these lower class neighborhoods, on paper, they look amazing. In reality, they're a nightmare. And what I've found in my experience, the only people that have really been able to crush it with these lower end neighborhoods are the folks who are their own property manager. Tom Kroll, who was here earlier, mentioned that you go to the back of the room at the REIA meetings, the Real Estate Investor Association meetings, and you talk to the people who are 60 and older. Well, here in Birmingham, if you did that at our local REIA, you're going to find that these people who are 60 and older, they are their own property manager, and that's their job. Their job is to manage the property of these low-end rentals, and every single day they drive around making repairs, collecting rent, making deals with bad tenants that don't pay for, just give me 100 today. Maybe next week I'll come back and get another 100 and we'll get you caught up. I didn't want that. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I got into real estate because I wanted financial freedom and I wanted time freedom. I didn't get into real estate to be a property manager and go around putting my life in danger to try to be a property manager. And for me, it didn't make sense. I ended up getting out of that game. I sold them off or gave them up, literally. And there's literally no other option. You can't sell them. In some cases, couldn't even sell them for $1. Couldn't even sell them for what the taxes are. Couldn't get rid of them. Nobody wants them. And you just have to let them go, not pay the taxes, and let the city take them over. And that's literally what real estate investors here in Birmingham, Memphis, Charlotte, I mentioned a lot of the cities. This is what happens in that bad game of playing the war zone, looks good on paper, real estate rental game. So again, in my experience, and I have a lot of it in this particular market, that's a bad idea. Don't do it. I highly discourage it. Today, I'm buying B+ properties, which would be in our area. It's about $100,000, $110,000, $120,000 property and up in a good school zone, a school area where they rated about a 7 or an 8 out of 10 or better, You're going to get a more working class neighborhood where everybody has a job, everybody goes and not living off of government paychecks. Nothing wrong with that, but they're not living off the government. They're working for something. They're taking care of the neighborhood. They're taking care of their house. They're mowing the grass. They're taking care of things. And I've just found it's a better tenant. It's a better property. It's a better area, and you're going to do better. The rates of return are obviously a little bit lower, but that's the rental game I play today, and it's just served me so much better. And you can't buy as much, you can't do as much, but you can sleep at night, knowing that you've got good tenants. There are decent property managers in these areas, and it's just a better way to do single-family residential rental property.
So,
That's
in my
awesome.
opinion, I kind of have the opposite.
Yeah, I'm opposite. But I'm gonna let Derek handle it, but I'm the opposite as well.
Yeah.
So real quick, Derek, because you haven't had a chance to share your story yet. I know you came in a little bit late, so I want to give you a little bit of info of what we're doing. So Derek, if you can start by sharing a little bit about yourself. We want to hear your journey of how you made and or lost your first $1 million in real estate, and then you can jump in and share about your thoughts regarding the low end rentals there, Derek.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Derek Culver, entrepreneur. I primarily invest in Cleveland, Ohio, as well as Colorado and southern Colorado and Colorado Springs.